Hello and welcome to TelecomTV. We're here at Mobile World Congress 2015 in Barcelona in Spain. I'm talking with an old friend now, Sandra from
Martyn.
Intel. And first of all, Sandra, since we last met in Phoenix, Arizona a couple of months ago, congratulations, you've been promoted.
Thank you.
So
very
well
much.
done.
Yes.
Well done. You are now VP of the Data Center Group and General Manager of the Network Platforms Group. Now, what does that mean as far as your work is concerned?
That means we develop and market all of the communications silicon and software ingredients that go into networks, which is part of the overall data center group at Intel. So we get to leverage all of the volume server economics, the virtualization technologies, and the cloud business models from cloud and data center and apply it to communications networks.
Well, we're here, as the viewers know, at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. It seems to come around quicker every year, doesn't it? And this year, last year there were 70-odd thousand people here. This year it's thought there might be 100,000. So certainly more crowded on the show floor. There's an enormous amount going on, notwithstanding the fact that you still can't get a cab for an hour and a half. But anyway, that's life. But this used to be a show about mobile phones and mobile apps. It certainly isn't that anymore. We've got an intelligent toothbrush company with a stand over there, for example. So there's a lot about network virtualization, NFV, SDN, virtualizing the network, the cloud, and so on. So it's a global showcase now, not just for mobile, but also for IT as this convergence continues. Tell us about what Intel's doing here in Barcelona. How important to Intel is this event, the Mobile World Congress, and what are you concentrating on?
Well, this is huge for us because, as you're describing, it used to be much more of a client-focused event, but there's been a realization over the last several years that in order to have those amazing experiences on your clients, you need an intelligent, programmable, scalable network. And that's where we've come in terms of the overall transformation that we see in the network, both from a technology perspective, an architectural perspective, but from a business perspective. And as I commented earlier, the opportunity to use a lot of the learnings from the IT, data center, and cloud industries and apply those as appropriate to the network industry is tremendous. Clearly, for all of the savings opportunities from a CapEx perspective, when you have more choice in the market, more interoperability of the platforms, from an OpEx perspective in terms of automation, better asset utilization, creating these pools of compute, network, and storage that you can utilize with multiple tenants, multiple applications, multiple geographies. But even more exciting, the opportunity to deliver new services and applications when you have programmable computing in parts of the network that never existed. So for us, it's a tremendously important event. We love the idea that the infrastructure is much more showcased in terms of the importance to deliver those experiences on the devices and to be that integral element in the middle between the device and the cloud and the content.
What does Intel regard as being the most important set of business opportunities? There won't be just one, obviously, over the course of this year. And what we've seen throughout the industry recently, and we've reported on a lot, is the fact that now partnership and collaboration is very much the norm. Companies that would have been daggers drawn as competitors in the past are now working together. How important is that?
Well, you know, I'm glad you brought that up because I think that too much has been said about having these industry giants from the over-the-top players and the content providers, and then of course the communication service providers being at odds with each other. But the fact is that once you create a network that is more programmable and open, you really have created a platform of innovation. Whether that innovation happens upstream with those content providers and those over-the-top players, or downstream in terms of the consumers and the end users that are able to self-provision and to, from a menu of options, self-select applications and capabilities. So I truly believe that in creating this scalable, agile, intelligent network, that you really are creating many new business opportunities that we can't really even foresee or anticipate. If you create that environment for the innovators to come, they'll innovate.
They will come.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What about the fact that so much more of what was traditionally IT technology is now coming into the network. What effect do you think that is having? Because it's what we've seen, there's been a lot of emphasis. We've seen NFV come from nothing in 2 years.
Yeah.
Now it's massively important. Together with SDN, cloud, as we say, network virtualization in general. There's a convergence with IT which is making a big difference. Proof of concepts of NFV networks are well underway, and there are some real examples of real networking going on out there in the real network today working. But what about the enterprise space? We've been looking at the carrier space. Is the move to the enterprise beginning?
You know, this is actually one of the most exciting, aha moments that we've had in the last year, which is when you use carrier grade as your design point, you realize that in fact that there are many other strategic end users that you can encapsulate under that umbrella. And the enterprise, and to use one example, the financial services industry in particular, is an industry that has all of the same requirements that the communication service providers have for high levels of security, high reliability, high availability, low latency transactions, high performance packet throughput. And so all of those same elements, when you're designing to a carrier grade environment, apply to other industries. And so we've been very much encouraged by the amount of interest there is to deploy in an NFV model in those enterprise environments. And one of the other things that I think is a dynamic that helps us move faster in that industry is that much of their infrastructure today is actually based on Intel architecture. You know, there's racks and racks and millions of servers that are deployed. So this idea that you have to do any type of re-architecture of the software to run on Intel architecture, it's a foreign idea. I mean, that is the work that we're doing, of course, in the communications networks, in the telco, if you will. But in the enterprise, all of that runs on IA today. The challenge that we've got and the work that we're doing is to, it's running in Intel architecture, but it's a physical appliance. How do you move that to standard servers, virtualize the workload, and run it as a virtual instance instead? And that is a much lower bar, if you will, in terms of
well,
the
you've got a head start.
Stronghold.
And there's a lot of talk of sort of COTS. Servers and all this, and how these are going to work. And of course, people want to buy them. They're cheaper. They're utilitarian. So it's a good problem to have.
Yes, indeed.
You also mentioned, Sandra, open, and of course, as we've spoken about this several times before, open standards and openness in the way that, particularly NFV and SDN, but the whole cloud thing and the new network is going along. I know you're involved with the OPNFV project, Intel OPNFV. How is it developing?
I could not be more delighted in terms of how much traction that effort is going, how much genuine interest and investment is coming into the program. We launched, as you know, at the end of September. We had 37 member companies at that point. We're up to 52 member companies. We, in fact, had a lovely reception last night where you could feel the energy and the interest level and this desire to go faster from, as you know, where we started with Etsy on the specifications, now to OPNFV getting to the reference implementations. So we have our first release on deck for April, which is a lot of progress to make in a fairly short period of time. But I believe there is a strong acknowledgement from the industry that open standards are not going away. IETF, ITU, 3GPP, Etsy, NFV are critically important to our industry, which is highly regulated, where you have to guarantee certain levels of emergency services and security and privacy. But the open collaborative projects, the OpenStacks and Open Daylight or OPNFV, really are a mechanism to innovate faster. And there's a strong interdependency, and there's a lot of collaboration that's happening because, quite frankly, many of the same companies and even the individuals that are participating in Etsy NFV are also part of the OPNFV community. So we think it helps accelerate the availability of commercial solutions as well as the actual deployments.
Thank you. Let's move on to another issue, mobile, which is enormous, often the elephant in the room. What's Intel's mobile strategy now and going forward for the next 12 months? And how many Intel-powered mobile networks do you think there will be out there, say this year, next year, the year after?
Yeah. Well, of course, mobile is where all the investment is going because of all of the growth. We are seeing a lot of activity and investment and interest in the access network. You know, some of the announcements that were made here, Alcatel-Lucent talking about their virtual RAN portfolio. A year ago when we spoke, we had an announcement around a collaboration agreement that has moved now into an actual commercial product that will be deploying later this year with real customers that are waiting for that. China Mobile, Telefonica have been public in terms of their desire to deploy that solution. So in the access network, a lot of activity, cloud RAN, bringing that cloudification of the network in the access network, but also in the mobile core. You see many demonstrations. We've seen many RFPs, RFIs, RFQs now for deployments that are planned for virtual EPC types of platforms, the MME, the S gateway, the P gateway. And I think you guys have reported on SK Telecom talking about their mobile core moving to a virtualized EPC in 2016. So all of this is real, it's happening. The numbers, I don't know what the numbers are exactly in terms of all the networks. In fact, one of the signs of a market that has momentum is where you're not involved in every one of those transactions. It's sort of happening on its own without us being in the middle of everything.
Along anyway.
But it's happening and it's exciting.
On to another issue which we haven't spoken about yet, but which is big, very big indeed. IoT, the Internet of Things. It depends on who you read and who you believe in terms of what the analysts are saying about the number of connected devices that will be out there by 2020. Mm-hmm. Some say 20 billion, some say 30, some say 50, but it's certainly in the tens of billions. Mm-hmm. Where's Intel's place in this evolving sector?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess a billion of anything is a lot, right? Well, Intel is very serious about playing in this space and providing enabling technologies for the solution providers to be able to innovate and provide capabilities in this space. We formed an Internet of Things group, as a matter of fact, that became a standalone business group within Intel where there's a lot of investment, a lot of innovation happening. We see that anything that computes and connects will do it best with Intel architecture. We're very excited about the level of market participation that is happening there now. We believe that that whole Internet of Things is one of the keys to the kingdom from the service providers when they look at how do I grow my services revenue, not just save money in terms of the transformation of the network. So Intel, from the Internet of Things perspective, from the usage models and the use cases there, is really driving an end-to-end strategy. We made some big announcements here in terms of our SoC capabilities and new CPUs that are going into the actual devices themselves. The Internet of Things represents a set of usage models that will drive more traffic and more data on the network. And of course, the network infrastructure and the cloud capabilities that we bring to the table really put us in a unique position to have an end-to-end portfolio of enabling capabilities for all of our customers.
Interesting you said a billion of anything is a lot. British television a few years ago, there was a sort of maths program which was called The Power of 10. And it started with a guy in a rowing boat on a lake with a red hat on, fishing. And it took it back 10 times the power of 10. So you're on the other side of the universe. Yeah. And this is what people don't realize. We bandy these terms around. To count to a million, this is what was said in this program. To count to a million, if you could say 990,000, in 1 second, starting without stopping, without using the washroom, without eating, starting from 1 to a million takes 4 days.
Wow!
That's how big it is. Okay.
So that's a good order of magnitude, sort of level set.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about, well, tangentially. But anyway, last question to you, which is sort of looking forward into the future a bit. Are there any other big Intel initiatives bubbling away out there?
Big data. So when you look at again, intelligence end to end in the client, in the access, in the core, and in the cloud. The ability to mine all of that data, it really is like mining gold, and provide business analytics and insight and intelligence to making business decisions on all of that contextual information and the massive amounts of data that we as individual users, and of course with the Internet of Things, is generating on the network. So we really believe that in the area of healthcare, in terms of genome sequencing and some of the things that we're doing in high performance computing combined with again, big data, the communication service providers, I mean, there's few industries in the world that can generate as much data as communications service providers when you have billions of users of those networks. And we know there's something there, right? There's a lot of intelligence, and we believe services, capabilities, and revenue that'll generate. So I think next year, perhaps when we get back together, we'll have some cool examples of things that some of our customers are doing.
Well, as usual, it was a very interesting interview. Sandra Rivera, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Mark.